Welcome to this video explainer of version 1.2 release of Location Manager and Aircraft Manager. Let's speed run through it. Let's look at Location Manager first, and we'll explain some of the features of Aircraft Manager as we go that have been changed. There's a major change to the saving features of Location Manager. We haven't saved this airport yet, Kingsford Smith, so let's just save it and you'll see what happens. First off, you'll see a message here, please wait finding runway parking data. What we're doing now is going away to the API and pulling up the runway and parking data for later use in fly mode using the Location Manager toolbar, which is very important. And we'll see one of the changes here is when we scroll down and look at where we saved that airport here, Kingsford Smith, you'll now notice that automatically added to the tags is R6 for 6 runways, 20 parking spots. There's many more probably at the major airport, but I've limited it to 20, the first 20 for space saving reasons. Maybe change that in the future. And if any of these runways have an ILS frequency, its ILS tag is added as well. You can see here some don't have that. That comes also in later in the toolbar. If you want to practice ILS, it'll pop up the frequency automatically when you select a runway. Some other small changes. I've swapped the name in the type field, so type is now your quick filter for favorites, and select is where you want to select any of the locations, and then we go to it. So we're going to use NTTB Bora Bora as our initial test location to demonstrate the Location Manager changes. But let's quickly have a look at some of the changes to Aircraft Manager and these menus here. You'll notice I've cleaned up the text. The accents that were showing up in some of the internationalized languages have been filtered out and replaced with English characters in the name fields, tags, and notes. Another thing that's been added is, as you'll see here, let's switch to the Caravan, which we're going to use as our test plane for today. You'll see we now have a message showing up here in the Aircraft Manager as opposed to the control presets to tell you that it's switching. You'll also notice that the livery has changed, and that what that's doing is our last saved livery for the aircraft is now auto loaded. So it's kind of like a favorite if you tend to use one livery, whereas before it would always reload. The base default behavior of the sim was to always reload the first or default livery, but now it will remember your last used livery and auto load that and show you as you change. Some of the other major changes here, a big one is weight and balance presets, which quickly allow you to change the configuration. What will always show up here, or always has before when this area wasn't, is you'll only ever get this one default and you have to manually go and change them. Now I've saved a couple here. Let's load one in. You can see we've loaded in 100 fuel, nearly 100 90% payload. It's auto, the name is auto added with these variables, and you might change them a little bit. And center of gravity, so that's fuel, payload, center of gravity setting. And you can add some tags. You can see the CG is there, and if we load this one, you see the CG moves backwards even more. That's fuel 50, payload roughly 100, and CG is 33 roughly. And I've said you don't have to save the default because you can always use this one down here, but I've saved the default one as well because just for quick access. So you can load it like that. And you can quickly see how the CG, if you watch this here, you'll see how the CG shifts depending. And that's important when you want to quickly reconfigure the plane and feel how it works under different weight and balance conditions. And they do operate differently, and it's important training to undertake. And that works everything from small aircraft. CG is incredibly important in all aircraft, and getting to grips with that is important. So this will enable that kind of training a lot more efficiently. Let's just use the default one for our training here. So let's just go to Bora Bora and check out the new training bar, what I call a training bar on the Location Manager. So the whole point of this is for quick repetition learning. So you can focus on learning on one learning point for each repetition. So you might do 4 to 6 repetitions of doing final approaches or takeoffs, base legs, downwind legs, crosswinds, and then you interleave that. You switch that up with doing some more to work on another point. That's called interleaved learning, when you don't just focus on the one thing for a half an hour session. You could, but optimal learning actually involves repetition and what's called interleaved learning, where you do short repetitions of one thing and then you focus on one other skill, or maybe a mix of another skill at the same time. This is a common sports training technique. So we're loaded here on Mute, Bora Bora. We're just waiting for these toolbars to kick on up. Now this is what I call the training bar release. You see here it's changed quite radically up here. Let's just go through the changes, major changes that we've got here. So from top to bottom, we've got a couple of changes here. We've added a time bar here so you can quickly change the time, which is very handy. We're sitting on runway 29, you can see there. We also have the wind relative to the plane, so when you're doing repetitions, you can quickly glance up there if you don't have it configured down here in the plane. And we've also put in the weather up here with a couple of tweaks. It automatically sorts it, adds the wind speed for this weather preset, and it will automatically sort them so you can choose a low wind and scroll down the bottom to a high wind preset if you want to do that. I'm using some off Flight SimTO, which also name them by cloud coverage and temperature, which is also very handy conditions. We're just going to go with clear skies for these tests. And we also have a random one, which I'll explain. Random also exists in all these, which obviously is kind of self-explanatory. So this is the main addition here, apart from these three, is the training bar. Just quickly go through the grid. The same changes. We have type is now your filter, as in the main map toolbar, Location Manager toolbar, and name for select, and you can also select on clicking on any of these other ones here like this. Oh, actually that will take us to a parking spot. So actually I've just teleported to Cape Town International, which is I shouldn't have done that. I should have clicked on latitude or longitude. We'll let that teleport and see how we go. You see, Cape Town's quite a way away from Bora Bora, so it's taking a little bit of a time to teleport. We're going to teleport back to Bora Bora, but I guess that just demonstrates the teleporting. Let's have a look at the daylight. Anyway, that just demonstrates that's the default location for that airport. That's why we're in the middle of the runway. We could actually go to one of these parking spots now because we're in the selected one. Bingo. I've got a bunch of different aircraft already in these parking spots because I've got my AI configured for general aviation using a few tweaks. So what you might find is when you choose these parking spots, a bunch of times if you've got that set up, you might end up inserted halfway into another aircraft, in which case you can just choose another parking spot and go to it quickly. When the selected green line here is what's loaded in here, you can see the ICAO. So let's go back to Mute, Bora Bora, because that's where we're going to run our initial tests for doing to demonstrate what we're doing here. So again, this takes a while to teleport because we're going quite a distance, but you'll find when we're doing these iteration trainings here, it's very quick to teleport because we're teleporting is dynamic based on the range of how far you're teleporting. That's annoying, that enunciator there, isn't it? It's the downside. So again, this is the default location. If you don't have a parking spot, that's a good demonstration of that. It will default to the default location of the airport. And that's the same for points of interest or cities or other custom locations that don't have parking spots, that just have a default location. That's where you go when you hit park that, and fly will be in whatever settings you set above that. So for now, let's look at these. Oh, the other thing here I should mention is we also have a quick filter for if you're doing airport work, you can quick filter on the ICAO and get rid of all the rest, just so it makes it a little bit clearer. Now you might think that toolbar is distracting, but when we fly, you can either just minimize it like that. I keep it a little bit off there because I still use the main toolbar, or you can pop it out. If you've got dual screens, you can just pop it out there, but I tend to keep it on here. Sometimes I just leave it open if I'm in external view. If I'm in cockpit, it's a little bit more distracting, so you can just roll it up because you're learning and you want quick access to it, and it's not that distracting, to be honest. Anyway, let's go through these. So let's look at, we were at runway 29 and we want to be in takeoff. So you select that and you just hit fly, bingo. You see how quick that was? Because we're already in the location, essentially. So this is for doing, obviously, quick takeoff iterations, which is handy. And that could be combined with doing your weight and balance. Say, for example, I was talking before about repetition learning and interleaving. Say one of your goals for this session is to learn takeoffs with different weight configurations, and by using these you can quickly swap between them. Okay, so you just pull that up, or you can minimize that as well. Same thing, if you want quick access to it, you can just minimize the two of them like that and pull them up. It's not that distracting, and you're really just learning. Get out of the way for now. So, and then you can just repeatedly, you take off. Let's just do that. We'll just do a takeoff, a quick demo. I've got the audio minimized a bit here so that it's not so distracting when I'm trying to talk. So we're in an empty plane pretty much here. It's just we're doing a no flap takeoff, and again, if you want to go back, you just runway. And you just keep doing that. If you want, you can do a whole circuit, go all the way, or just cut it. You might just go to doing the crosswind leg and then back to the runway, depending on how many repetitions you want to do. Or maybe you're working on a particular skill. You're working on refining your rotation point, trying to get as close as possible to the identified speed on the tape where you should rotate. You know, there's lots of little micro skills that apply to learning that this sort of repetition training can come in very handy for. So that's takeoff. The other ones are final. We have 2 base, left and right, in case you want to do that. Crosswind, downwind, and 3 randoms, which I'll explain as we go through. Let's look at final. Say we switch to final and we try and go fly, you'll get a message saying select all star drop downs to fly, and you'll notice these have asterisks on them. So you've got to select all these 4, 5 in order to fly, because it's related to the runway. So let's say distance is the distance from this position that you want to be placed at, and it goes anywhere from, we've done this in kilometers, I've done this in kilometers as opposed to nautical miles, so it's nice round numbers. So we have a hybrid unit system here, which isn't that much of a brain strain. You'll get used to it. You imperial people, we used to be imperial in Australia. I still think in both, to be honest. So we go from 250 meters all the way up to 25 kilometers in different ranges. So let's just choose a kilometer. Height we're doing in feet, so let's just go to 1,000 feet. And speed and height will also go, we have random, but it goes from 125 feet all the way up to 30,000 feet. We have a dynamic AGL height placement system in the teleporting here, and I'll show that later, some quirks with that you want to be familiar with. And let's do 80 knots. Okay, so now let's just fly and we'll see what it's done. And to demonstrate what these are a little bit better, I'm going to pull up a little nav map here. So this is a left-hand pattern based on runway 29, which is where we are at here, and you can see that our final has placed us here, and the distance is the 1 kilometre off the threshold. So we take the runway length divided by half. This is our launch point. We're going all the way down here. So this is the distance. And we're 1,000 feet off the ground. Let's do base left. And we'll see we're repositioned here. Base left. And you might just want to explore the cornering, and you might want to start at 125 feet. Same again with weight and balance. You can change them up and just get used to working on refining one point of the pattern. And you might be doing normal patterns, or you might be doing stall training at a very tight airstrip somewhere. Base right, obviously, we'll place you out here. Imagining a right-hand pattern. We're just going to go through the left-hand ones from here. You can experiment with them yourself. Fly mode, crosswind, you can see we've gone up here. We've just turned the corner of the pattern. If you're doing a full circuit, perhaps. And downwind, obviously, is going to place us, I'm sure you can guess, opposite the runway point down here. And see we're 1 kilometre off, 1,000 feet, 80 knots. If we go by the tape, more or less, you can see that there. So the random ones, this is where it gets interesting. Random 2 will place you anywhere within that distance you've chosen there, and it will orientate you at the target, which is chosen here. So let's just do a random 2. See where that places? You can see that it's placed us here, same distance out, but it's pointing at the runway. We'll do another one. And so it's out there, and you can see we're pointing, and again, you get the picture, and we're now over here, pointing at the runway. Random from is just the opposite. It'll do the back bearing, so you'll be flying away. As you can see there. Because you might want to practice turning around, who knows. Explore, use it however you like. So, there you go, and we're pointing back at the runway there. And random is completely random. It'll set you within that range and just give you a completely different bearing if you want it. It's completely. Okay, so you were zipping all over the place there, trails. Okay. Now the other ones, that's random position. Let's just go back to doing the final because it's easy to demonstrate a couple of things, and let's just clear out our. So random height, let's just do some random distance, and we'll see. Let's see at 0.25. It's very close. We'll do random distance, and let's see. Let's see, it's put us out here. And just do a couple of those just to demonstrate. And it's completely random. It's up to you how often you use it. And same again for height. It's only up to about this range here, so this is a kilometre. So I think I've set the random. It'll put you out in about here. So it's really for local training students. Now, if you want to go further, then you can physically select up to 25 kilometres. Height is kind of the same. It'll only do it up to about 4,000 or 5,000 feet, I think. What are we looking at here? 2,700. We've gone there on the tape. That's the pause kind of screws us up. Until you unpause it, won't change the height. That's one thing you'll notice. See there. And I should mention the pause. You'll notice that every time we hit fly, we end up in pause mode. That's controlled by this one here. It depends on you. You might want to not do pause, so you can hit fly, and you'll automatically be flying when you get into it. And you'll see there that the height is correctly. So if we do another one, pause is off. We've gone up to 3,700 feet. This one's a bit lower. Takes a little bit of time to stabilize for the instruments to react. but you get the picture. We go 1 kilometer out. Let's put pause on it. I prefer pause because you might want to minimize the bar here, or do some other things, set trims or whatever. And that's something I should mention when you do teleport into fly mode. The current setting is flaps are up. You'll notice in pause mode, if you've had flaps down, they might look down, but when you unpause off, I have it pause bound to a key on, could be your keyboard or your controller, so I just hit that when I want to fly like that. When you first teleport in, the flaps might still be down. It takes a little while for them to get back into the flaps up. So the teleport is set to put you in flight mode here, and any of these settings from final to base whatever is flaps are up, so you need to control them yourself. Gear will be up. You're in a tractable gear. Engine is on. And on that point, I should mention that if you're going to use any of these, this training bar setting here is do not start cold and dark and then go straight into one of these, because the engine will be on but your avionics stuff might be off. So this training bar is designed to be used when your system is up and run. So either hot start on the runway, where the runway.flt file will configure everything for you and your instruments and everything are on, or start cold and dark and then run through at one of the parking spots or whatever and run through your startup procedures and get it all running, and then go and use one of these, okay? And the other thing I meant to mention is trims are not touched. So if you're using trims on landing or whatever, when you teleport back, they'll be at the setting. They're not reset like flaps or gear. So you might want to set up some quick reset trim bars on your, trim buttons on your keyboard, or use great tools like the HUD bar, which will configure you with a little bar on the bottom here with buttons you can use to reset the trims. And you can set all these to random if you want to go super crazy and practice whatever. Let's even do that. Let's pause off and see where we end up. Okay, we're going 5,000 feet. So yeah, we're getting everything changing. So again, you might want to, at the end of a training session, you might have really worked on the skill and you're happy with it, but now you want to up it, up the challenge, and you want to try it in higher wind conditions, or either in your controller with random, and again, changing the weight and balance. So let me just, we're going to go to Lukla now, because I want to demonstrate some of the issues to do with, let's go to Lukla, runway 24, takeoff. I want to demonstrate some of the dynamic height adjustment stuff I talked about before. So we can, we're going to go to timing. Let's see, just hopefully this will place us on the wrong way. It might be a bit dodgy, but this will demonstrate what happens if we get a dodgy teleport. Sometimes it does, it's a little bit off. We can just hit the fly button or the park button again, and that will detail. So, ejecting. Oh, as you can see there, a little bit dodgy, so we just hit it again. Bang, we're on the runway. Okay, so that was a good demonstration. When we're doing a long teleport, sometimes it gets a little bit frisky. See there, the aircraft heading angle is a little bit off too, so it's no big deal, just hit it again. And again, we can filter on the ICAO. Now, what I wanted to demonstrate here is, let's just again pull up our, and let's, okay, this is Lukla. We have a left-hand pattern on 06, but we're at runway 29 for takeoff. But this is usually it's a one-way runway for landing and takeoff. It's bi-directional, but I just want to demonstrate here what I mean by the when it's detecting your AGL. So let's just say we want to go 125 feet above the ground. We want to do 1 kilometer distance, and we're going to do 80 knots, and we're in final. Now, you wouldn't land this way at Lukla, but this is just for way of example, because we're on final for runway 29, which is going to put us back here in the mountain, which is not where we would fly, because Lukla, you're always coming from this direction. But I just want to demonstrate the dynamic AGL feature, what we're doing here. So what'll happen here is sometimes, again, just like you saw them when we were doing long teleport, and it might go a little bit nuts, it should calculate, 1 kilometer will put us back here somewhere on this mountainside. And normally, because that's 1 kilometer back, we'd be somewhere in the mountainside. But I've got a dynamic AGL feature in this that should, there we go, work that time. Okay, so we're now just 125 feet off the ground, right at the back of the mountain, right behind here, and Lukla Airport is just through that mountain basically. So you can see us, we're there, we're just behind this sort of ridge poking out here, and we can't see it. Now if we try that again, or we go back a little bit further into the mountain, we'll more than likely, maybe 20% of the time, it'll stick us in the mountain when it's trying to calculate the AGL. If it does that, it didn't that time. That was pretty cool. See, I'm getting more robust. I'm getting better at it. It might stick us underneath. It's actually being very, very well behaved at the moment. Okay, it's actually, I can't get it to screw up. Oh well, not to worry. Well, that's actually good. But what happens is you'll see it, you'll know it when it does it. You'll see all that. It's like when you're doing the long teleport. You're below the ground. If it gets caught there, just hit fly again and you'll be right. If we go the other way, let's do 6, and we're 2.5 kilometers, it's 125, we'll be out here somewhere. So again, that was, you wouldn't normally be here. It's quite dodgy, but there's Lukla there. Okay. So, and we can change the height as well. Let's go see. And we're here, so and same again, you can do any of these other things here. Okay, the last feature I want to demonstrate is the ILS. And you can see here none of these that we've been doing here. We've covered the training bar features, we've covered the what can happen if you get caught in a mountainous area, because Bora Bora was quite flat, so the point of Lukla was to demonstrate what happens if you're positioning yourself around in a mountainous area. You might occasionally get bounced underground. No big deal, just fly again. So let's go to another airport where we can test the ILS. Let's try, what was a big one? Let's try LA, LX. And it's loaded in here. Let's try runway 24 right. And you can see I chose it there. It's loaded in the details even though we're still at Lukla. And ILS is at 108.5. So let's go there first off. Let's do a final, and we'll be, because it's an ILS, we want to be a little bit further out. And let's do 1,000 feet. Should probably do should probably do, let's just do 750 feet and speed at 80 knots. And let's just fly. It'll take a little bit of time to, let's just adjust the time to the daylight. This is a long teleport. She's diving because it's not in pause mode. It'll stabilize. Putting a bit of power on here, you can see it's starting to hang on the stick. There we go. We're back in pause mode because pause mode is on. We're 3 kilometers out on runway 24 right, 750 feet. Look at, well, it doesn't show that because pause is on, but these will stabilize once we get pause off. 78 knots, flaps are up, gears down. Obviously, trims are set as to what they were when we put it in. So we want to test the ILS. In this case, we need to set 108.5. Okay, so let's just set our ILS 108.5. Okay, 108.5. We need to swap those in, but let's kick off first. Anything else I need to set? We know the wind. Oh, it was random. 3.7 knots. Oh, we can leave it at that, but that's going to change every time we do that. So let's do clear skies. And let's just hit pause off. Power on. Okay, and now let's swap the nav bar. Okay, 108.5, and we'll now see, we should see on our ILS our diamond start to acquire.
500.
Has it picked it up? It doesn't appear to have picked it up. Was 108.5? Swap that back in. Maybe because it was in pause mode. Let's try that again. Let's go back. Try it again and unpause it. And okay, you can see there. You should have it switched over before you unpause, and then it will acquire. See the
500.
ILS diamond there. Okay, so, and we can see the PAPI lights. Okay. Oh, it looks like that Alt Enter might have just screwed that up. Okay, let's just go back again. We've got it switched over. Unpause. And we should... Okay, there we go. There's our ILS. It flaps down. Again, we could change the weather. Let's kick it up a bit with a bit of... rain. Okay.
500.
See, I blew that one completely. So let's cycle back. Rain acquired. Flaps are up. Let's give it a shot. We'll keep it there. Pause off. Let's be a little bit more in control here. Oh, we're only at 750 feet here. A bit high.
500.
This is showing 9.1 knots. Oops, low. Terrible pilot, aren't I? See the ILS numbers now. High. Anyway, you get the idea. You can just cycle that around, and again, same thing. You can change your weight and balance presets if you want to play with them, and the same thing. So you can go from anywhere from whatever conditions you like. fewer clean conditions, live weather if you want, clear skies with no wind whatsoever. I've noticed that at KLX the lights are in the sky. That's pretty freaky. I guess it's a California thing. So you get the general idea. Let me know if there's any issues, and this is like a version 1 of version 1.2 of this the training bar for quick, repetitive interleaved learning. Play with it, and you can turn it into a game as well. You can do this at any strip. You can do this at stall strips, big strips like here, big multi-parallel runways. What are we looking at with KLAX is huge. You know, we have 6 runways here, I think. 4, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Sorry, actually. And do what you want. See where it goes. Have fun with it. Take care.